Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Mekk-Knight Shaddoll Invoked deck profile. So this deck is a really interesting deck that actually fuses 3 engines into one to be able to make this really interesting hybrid deck, and I feel like I should have profiled this deck because of the new release of Mekk-Knight Crusadia Evermax. This card is a really interesting card that's going to be one of the new generic Link 4 monsters, but I figured since it was a Mekk-Knight, I'd want to go ahead and profile my Mekk-Knight Crusadia, or my Mekk-Knight Invoked Shaddoll. Like, there's a lot going on here. But anyways, guys, let's get straight on this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of this video down in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit that bell down there so you can become part of the notification squad. And let's get straight on into this. So, first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall. So Purple Nightfall is one of the best Mekk-Knights, or if not the best Mekk-Knight in the entire game. But what the Mekk-Knights do is if there are more than 2 cards in the same column, meaning if there's a card here and a card here, then you can special summon out the Mekk-Knight into that zone, or into one of the zones. Like, for instance, if there's one in the extra monster zone here, and then a spell or trap, you can just special summon the monster right there, and go for a play, which is really cool, with them being such big attack points as well. But this one also has the added effect of that you can target a Mekk-Knight monster you control and banish it until the next standby phase. And if you do, you get to add a Mekk-Knight monster from your deck to your hand, which is really cool, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Then we play only 2 copies of Mekk-Knight Blue Sky. I really want to play 3 of this, but I just can't justify playing 3 copies of it. I've just bumped it down to 2 because there's other cards I want to play in this deck. But it has the effect of, if it's normal or special summon from your hand, you can add a Mekk-Knight monster with different names, except another copy of itself from your deck to your hand, equal to the number of Mekk-Knight monsters, equal to the number of cards, or equal to the number of your opponent's cards in this card's column. So, like, if your opponent has another card in the column, you get to add another Mekk-Knight, which is pretty cool. Usually you're going to search out, like, Purple Nightfall to get your additional search. Then we only play 1 copy of Indigo Eclipse. This one's the Shifty Mekk-Knight, which is the one that can shift between zones, basically. And then 1 copy of Red Moon, which is the last Mekk-Knight we main deck. Red Moon is basically you get to target a face-up monster in this card's column and destroy it. But the cool thing is that Indigo Eclipse can actually move it to a different zone so you can get a different pop, which is pretty cool. Then for the Shaddoll engine, I'm going to be playing 1 copy of Beast, which basically when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. And then if it's flip face-up, you get to draw 2 and then discard 1. 1 copy of Shaddoll Dragon. When it's flip face up, it's a compulse, and when it's sent to the graveyard, it's an MST. Squamata. 1 copy of Squamata. When it's flip face up, you can destroy an opponent's monster, and then when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to Foolish Burial another Shaddoll. 1 copy of Hedgehog. You get to add a Shaddoll spell or trap when it's flipped up. When it's sent to the grave, you get to you get to add a Shaddoll spell or trap to your hand. And 1 copy of Falco. Falco is my favorite one of them all. Basically, when it's sent to the graveyard, it special summons itself to your side of the field, and if it's on the field and it's flip face up, then you get to target a Shaddoll in your graveyard and reborn it into your side of the field, which is pretty cool, in face down defense. Then for the Invoked engine, we play 3 copies of Alistair, the Invoker of Madness. He's pretty much all you need for the monsters, and he's the only main deck monster that you play for that. But quick effect, you can send him from your hand to the graveyard to target a fusion monster you control. It gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end phase of the turn. And if this card is normal summon or flipped face up, you can add an invocation from your deck to your hand, which is really cool because each one of the invoked cards that you play in the deck, such as Alistair, and between Alistair and Invocation and Magical Meltdown, they all search one another, which is really cool. And I really love that, how the synergy works with them. Then I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just to be able to stop my opponent from doing things, and 2 copies of Effect Veiler. I wanted to make this deck as meta as possible without making it extremely, extremely expensive. But this deck is actually a pretty decent, viable option for you guys if you want to play something that's relatively cheap, but still, you know, competitive. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 1 copy of World Legacy Succession. You need 1 copy of World Legacy Succession because you get to target a monster in your grave and special summon it to a zone a Link monster points to. It kind of helps out that way. If you don't have World Legacy Succession, I know this card can be a little bit expensive. You could totally substitute it with Monster Reborn. 2 copies of Terraforming. Terraforming just adds Magical Meltdown from our deck to our hand, which is really helpful to be able to get our search off, because when it's activated, you get to add an Alistair from your deck to your hand. 2 copies of Super Polymerization. This card comes in extremely handy to be able to fuse off different things with our opponent, to be able to just get so many different plays off. 2 copies of World Legacy's Memory. This card is interesting. You special summon a Mekk-Knight monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but return it to your hand during the end phase. So it kind of searches one and special summons it at the same time. So it can really help you out in different plays. But for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except Mekk-Knights. That's why it's so important to have Mekk-Knights in your extra deck that you can link into to get that one off the field. Then I play 3 copies of Called by the Grave. You need Called by the Grave to stop your opponent from hand trapping you. 3 copies of Invocation. Invocation is the fusion spell of the deck. You get to fusion summon a monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion material, or if you're summoning an invoked monster, you are using like an Alistair in the grave and a card in your opponent's graveyard, or from your side of the field. Then you can target one of your banished Alistairs, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, you get to add this card back to your hand, which is really cool. Then we play 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion lets us go into all our Shaddoll Fusions, which we really only play Construct and Winda in this build. You can play other ones if you feel like you need to go into any of the other ones, but those are the best 2 anyways, so I don't play any of the other ones. 3 copies of Magical Meltdown. When it's activated, you get to add an Alistair, and when the activated effects monsters that you control that are fusion monsters, and fusion monsters cannot be negated. So if your opponent activates something, they cannot negate the fusion monsters effects. And also your opponent cannot activate cards when a fusion monster is summoned, which is really cool when it's fusion summoned, which is really nice to be able to stop your opponent from stopping your fusion summons, and it makes them all where their effects don't get negated, which is really cool. I love this card. Like, it's such a good card to have in any fusion deck. That's why Shaddolls work so well in this deck, is because this card protects your Shaddolls from being destroyed when they're summoned and being, like, negating their summons, which is really nice. And it really, really, really helps. So that's it for the spells, guys. I know this deck goes by pretty quickly because it's easily explained, and I really like this deck. Like, it's super easy, yet it's really, like, you really got to think about it when you're playing it. So for the only trap card I'm playing 1 copy of World Legacy's Secret. I thought about bumping this up to 2, but when it's activated, you get to target a level 5 or higher monster in your grave and special summon it. And when this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. So it's kind of like Call of the Haunted for level 5 or higher. But it also has the effect of negate any opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-Knight. So that's really, really good to be able to stop your opponent from doing certain things. Like, with Memory and this combo, you can just shut down your opponent so easily with this card. And I'm thinking about bumping it up to 2, but I don't know what I want to drop yet. But this card is really, really, really good. And I'm really thinking about playing it at more than 1. And I'm thinking about bumping it up to 2. I probably wouldn't play it any more than 2, but 2 might be the optimal number for me. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing one of the new Crusadia, Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermechs. But it's really interesting because this is the first time that they actually put like a restriction like this on a Link monster that I know. But it requires 2 monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck, and when it's Link summoned to your when this Link summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and also monsters. Your opponent must attack this card. They can't attack other monsters, which is pretty cool. And if this card battles a special summon monster, quick effect, you can make this card gain attack equal to the opponent's monster's attack. And during that damage calculation only, and if this Link summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can shuffle 1 card they control into the deck, which is pretty cool. And it doesn't target when it shuffles back, which is just awesome. So your opponent's going to have to use up a lot of resources to get rid of this because it's untargetable, and they really can't like destroy it by battle, because once per turn it's going to gain attack, so they have to have 2 monsters on the field that are over 3,000, which is just really, really hard to get over. Then I play 1 copy of Mekk-Knight Spectrum Supreme. You can drop this if you don't want to play it. I play it at 1 because it really helps out having the 1 copy of Spectrum Supreme to me, to being able to attack directly, and I love the arrows of it. So I play it as 1 of. Then I play 1 copy of Morningstar. Morningstar helps out because it just requires 2 monsters, including a Mekk-Knight, which is extremely easy to pull off. And then if it's Link Summon, you can discard a Mekk-Knight or a World Legacy card, and then you get to add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. That's why I'm only playing the World Legacy Secrets at 1, because it's searchable, and the World Legacy Succession at 1, because this card searches those cards, so that's why I only play them at 1 each. Alistair the Invoker, this card kind of just goes in with the Invoked engine. 1 copy of Borreload, just to take my opponent's monsters. Boral Sword, just to kind of keep going with my plays, no TK my opponent. Unicorn, to be able to bounce monsters. And then I play 1 copy of Phoenix, just to pop spells and traps in case you need to. 1 copy of Cerberus, same thing. You can actually link into, like, get something like Mekk-Knight Crusade, or the Mekk-Knight right here, and then summon either one of these that you need. And it's really easy to put more than 1 monster on board with this deck, like really, really easy. Then link these 2 together to make your Crusadia, or Mekk-Knight Crusadia. Then for the fusions, we're going to be playing 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because this card is so easy to go into in this deck with Super Polymerization. 1 copy or 2 copies of Makaba. You need 2 copies of Invoked Makaba, because this card is just really good in the deck. And it's kind of like the all-star of the deck. But what it does is that once per turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, you can send the same type of card from your hand to the grave and negate the activation, which is really good to be able to just negate our opponent from anything that we need to negate. 1 copy of Purgatrio. This card catches our opponent off guard and can let us fusion into it. We can also use Ash Blossom in our graveyard, and a lot of times our opponent is going to have Ash Blossom, so it's really easy to like Synchro or to fusion into that. 1 copy of Construct, just because it's really easy to make, and it's really nice to have that extra body on board that just can destroy special summon monsters, and it's just another boss monster that we have. And then 1 copy of Winda to prevent our opponent from special summoning. Usually I'll summon this first turn, if I can, to prevent my opponent from special summoning a bunch next turn. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this one. I really enjoy playing this deck. It's a really, really fun deck to play around with. Just to be able to throw 3 engines together and to have a Shaddoll deck all at the same time. Because you guys know how I love Shaddolls. And I really love Mekk-Knights too. Like, Mekk-Knights were one of the decks that when it came out, I bought right off the bat. And I would not hesitate to carry this deck into like a regionals, into like a locals. I might even carry it into locals and play it. Like, I could totally top with this deck. So, anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the channel. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.